It was a busy morning in South Korea. The streets hummed with traffic, students bustled through the college gates, and life moved at its usual pace. Among the crowd was Sung-woo Yu, stepping onto campus for the first time since completing his mandatory military service, a familiar voice called out to him. It was Han-ho Lee, a fellow student and one of Sung-woo's closest friends before enlistment. They exchanged greetings, laughter, and casual teasing, falling into an easy rhythm as they walked toward the main building. But as they approached the campus library, Han-ho suddenly stopped. His eyes were fixed on the sky, his face pale with confusion. "There was something up there," he said, pointing above the rooftop. "Words, glowing. It said, 'Downloading monster, 99%. And then it disappeared when it hit 100%. Sung-woo laughed, brushing it off. "What, did you see your ex-girlfriend floating in the clouds?" Han-ho shook his head. "No, seriously, it was real. It hovered right above the library." But Sung-woo didn't buy it. He teased Han-ho relentlessly, blaming his vivid imagination on too many late-night video games, or perhaps the alcohol he'd been drowning in after the breakup. Han-ho hesitated, then chuckled weakly, unsure himself. Maybe it had been a drunken hallucination. As they neared the lecture hall, Han-ho suggested grabbing some coffee. Sung-woo declined. They were already running late, and their professor was known for punctuality. They parted ways with a promise to meet at lunch. Han-ho swore once more that he'd seen the message in the sky. Sung-woo waved him off. "Cut the crap. I'm heading to class." Inside the lecture hall, Sung-woo slumped into his seat, groggy and regretting his choice to skip coffee. His head dipped as the professor began the lecture. Sleep tugged at his mind. Then, everything changed. Without warning, the room went pitch black. The lights died. The windows no longer let in daylight. Even phones were dead. Panic broke out in the room. Students shouted, stumbled, cried out. Then it appeared, a floating screen, glowing in front of every student, displaying a strange message. "Which class will offer you the best chance of survival in the apocalyptic world? Please make your selection now." Sung-woo blinked in disbelief. Was he still dreaming? Around him others were panicking. The darkness was unnatural. No light, no power, just the glowing screens and an eerie silence pressing down on the room. Time remaining, 15 seconds. Then came the cards, hovering before each student. Each one labeled with a class: warrior, mage, paladin, rogue, and each bore a number, of stars like some kind of fantasy game. Nobody knew what to do. Some were frozen with fear. Others hesitated, afraid to touch the cards at all. Sung-woo's mind raced. What is this? A game? A test? A trap? 10 seconds. He looked at the cards. He didn't understand the rules, but instinct told him it would be more dangerous to do nothing. 8 seconds. 7. A bright flash drew his attention. A sword materialized in the hands of one of his classmates. The warrior card had vanished from his hands. Sung-woo made a decision. He grabbed the card with the most stars. "You have selected your class, Necromancer." Just as suddenly as it had begun, the world snapped back to normal. The lights returned. The classroom returned to its previous state. But nothing felt normal. Sung-woo stared at his empty hands, wondering if it had all been a hallucination, a dream, or something else. Then, the classroom door crashed open. A bloodied student stumbled, inside screaming. Behind him, a goblin burst through the doorway. Its eyes were wild, its claws soaked in blood. Before anyone could react, it lunged forward and tore down a student in front of the class. Everyone froze in terror. A voice cried out, pointing to a student with a shimmering sword, a 2-star paladin, but the boy was trembling, unable to move. Sung-woo's heart pounded. Fear screamed at him to run, but another voice whispered that running would make him an easy target. In a split-second decision, he kicked the goblin in the chest, knocking it back. He grabbed the nearest chair and swung, once, twice, again, and again, until the creature stopped moving. Silence fell. Then a screen appeared before his eyes. You have received 10 gold for defeating a goblin. Sungwoo stared, breathless. What was happening? Goblins, gold, classes. Had the world changed? Then a second message appeared. As a necromancer, you can command the dead under your authority. A strange glow rose from the goblin's corpse. Its spirit lifted, shimmering in the air. Then, bones cracked, twisted, and reassembled into a grotesque form. Before him stood a goblin skeleton, reanimated and waiting for orders. Sungwoo's eyes widened. The classroom gasped. He wasn't dreaming. He wasn't imagining things. He had become a necromancer. The undead skeleton, freshly summoned by Sungwoo, stood still, awaiting its master's command. Just then, 2 more goblins burst through the door. Without hesitation, Sungwoo's mind raced. His minion remained motionless, eyes hollow yet ready. Fight! Kill them, Sungwoo commanded coldly. At once, the skeleton jerked to life, charging toward the goblins with eerie precision. The goblins, startled by the unnatural sight, let out snarls and raised their crude weapons. Steel clashed against bone as a fierce battle erupted in the confined space. One goblin managed to crack the minion's arm with a wild swing, causing Sungwoo's heart to jolt. What if it loses, he thought. I'll have to fight them myself. They were small creatures, not particularly strong, but Sungwoo knew he lacked a proper weapon. Desperate, he turned to one of his classmates who had chosen the warrior class. Lend me your sword. But the boy, a fat, sour-faced student, refused, clutching the blade like a treasure. I need it. To peel potatoes, he muttered. Frustrated, Sungwoo grabbed a chair instead, charging into the fray. Together with his skeletal minion, they managed to overpower the goblins. The final blows landed hard, and the goblins collapsed in a heap of lifeless green flesh. The skeletal minion turned to Sungwoo with what almost looked like pride glowing in its hollow sockets, as if awaiting praise. But Sungwoo felt only unease. A cold shiver ran down his spine. The minion was grotesque. Goblin bones now reanimated under his control. Then, without warning, the remains of the fallen skeleton stirred. Another undead began to rise. One more minion now answered to him. The entire class gasped in horror, voices rising in panic. Sungwoo, what's happening? I'm not sure, he replied, glancing at his hands, then at the growing number of undead under his command. Drawn by instinct, he rushed to the window. Outside, chaos reigned. Screams echoed from every direction. Fires burned. People were running, falling, dying. This wasn't just their school. It was the entire country, maybe even the world. A voice rang out behind him. We can't stay here. We need to move! As the class scrambled out of the room, more goblins appeared at the end of the hallway. Panic spread. But Sungwoo's minions leapt forward without hesitation, intercepting the enemy. Everyone run! Sungwoo shouted. I'll hold them off. He clenched his fists. So many things are unclear. But this is like a game. There are rules here. I just need to understand them. My class, my abilities, even these monsters. There's logic behind it all. It sounded foolish, but the more he fought, the more confident he felt. If I can just survive, I might be able to make sense of this. Suddenly, one of his minions was decapitated, its skull flying across the hallway. Sungwoo gritted his teeth, despair creeping in. Then, bang, bang, 2 clean kills. His remaining minion had taken out the enemies with swift, brutal force. Good job, Sungwoo muttered, breathless. Ding! A message appeared before his eyes. You have reached level 2. His eyes widened. Level? No way! Do I have a status window too? Another notification followed. Please select your level up card. He reached out instinctively. The card he received read, Skill acquired. The maximum number of minions you can command has increased by 1. It was pure luck, but welcome luck. Sungwoo quickly summoned another undead. A surge of energy pulsed through him, then faded. He realized he was running low on mana. Still, he had survived this far. That mattered more than anything. He returned to the window, peering out again. The campus was bad, but outside was a nightmare. Blood-soaked streets, civilians screaming for help, beasts feasting on the fallen. It was a massacre. I can't stay here forever, he thought. But for now, I need to be alert. I need to survive. He turned back to his undead and gave a nod. Lead the way. And so, with skeletons at his side and determination hardening in his heart, Sungwoo stepped forward, into the unknown.